Kingdom Come Deliverance takes place in a time of uncertainty in Bohemia. King Charles IV successfully ruled the land for many years and brought great change and prosperity, but after his death, the throne went to his son, Wenceslas IV. But rather than ruling, the new king ignored the affairs of state and spent his time frivolously. Abusing his position of power, he even failed to turn up to his own coronation. They called him Wenceslas the Idol. Issues mounted with the king until the nobles finally had enough by his inaction and turned to the king's half-brother for help, King Sigismund of Hungary. Sigismund answered their pleas and chose to kidnap the king Wenceslas and force him to abdicate the throne. He then took advantage of the ensuing chaos to gain greater power for himself and invades Bohemia, attacking the king's allies. We open in the town of Silver Skalitz, focused on its trade of silver mining. Our protagonist is Henry, son of the local blacksmith. He's awoken by his mother after a long night of drinking and dancing. His father needs help finishing a sword he's crafting, so it's time to get out of bed. Henry's mother notices a scratch on his hand and begins to scold him, as she believes he has been getting into sword fighting lessons. Henry tells his mother not to worry and that he only scratched himself. She stops pressing him further, but reminds Henry how much his father hates fighting. She also reminds him that he promised to help his father finish the sword for Lord Rattay and sends him on his way. Henry's father asks him to collect some money he is owed to pay for some charcoal and collect the engraved crossguard he ordered to finish the sword. Wandering the city, you find your friends Fritz, Matthew, and Matthias overhearing an argument about the current political climate. One of the locals believes Sigismund is in the right in what he has done so far, as he believes Wenceslas is not a capable king. But it's made clear most of the village believes Wenceslas is the rightful king, and Skalitz's Lord Rattay, is the king's commander-in-chief. One of the men sitting down makes it clear that arguing about politics won't change anything, and that they would rather talk about something more pleasant. Your friends then come up with a scheme to punish the Sigismund sympathizer by throwing manure at his home. Henry is able to choose to help them with this scheme or not. Afterwards, you collect the money owed to your father, buy the charcoal, and collect the crossguard. Before heading home, Henry bumps into combat master Vanyek. Vanyek jokingly asks if he's recovered from his great wound. Henry says it's nothing, but that his mother noticed and began to scold him. Vanyek says that no mother is happy when their son begins to take interest in swords, as where there are weapons, there is death. But then Vanyek asks what Henry wants. Henry feels as though he doesn't fit in and doesn't want to rot away in Skalitz forever. He wants to live and explore the world, but the world is dangerous and he needs to learn how to protect himself. Vanyek likes Henry's attitude and agrees to give him one more lesson, as today is his last day in Skalitz. After your lesson, you head towards the tavern to bring your father a fresh cold ale. You receive the ale from Bianca, Henry's girlfriend. She and Henry's friends are part of the reason he stayed up so late last night. The two flirt with each other for a bit before Henry heads back to his father. Henry and his father then spend some time together, putting together Lord Rattay's sword. While getting the furnace ready, Henry's father says he heard someone threw dung at someone's freshly limed wash house. He believes Henry and his friends had something to do with it. Henry exclaims that they were talking treason about Sigismund and the king, believing he got what he deserved. Guilty or no, Henry's father explains clearly that he has a business to run, and that harassing one of his potential customers and his son being sent to the pillory helps no one and solved nothing. He tries to teach his son a lesson, saying that he may win a fight with violence, you will never win an argument. To convince someone they are wrong, he needs to use his words, not his fists. The two continue to bond and finish off the sword. Henry asks why his father left Prague, as he finds it odd a master swordsmith is spending most of his time making horseshoes in a village. His father dodges the answer and simply says he has everything he needs here. Henry then asks some questions about the previous emperor's rule. Henry's father fondly describes the previous emperor's many accomplishments and focuses on all the great things he's done without having a war. He agrees with Henry that the previous emperor was indeed better than Wenceslas, but he does empathize with Wenceslas, saying it can't be easy filling the shoes of someone as great and history defining as his father. Henry then asks about Sigismund. His father simply asks if he thinks King Charles would attack his own people Clearly not. Wenceslaus may have his issues, but Sigismund brings shame to the royal family name. You're then visited by Teresa, the local miller's daughter. She's come to pick up an order of nails that her father requested. Henry and Teresa chat a bit before asking if Henry will be at the dance tonight, and she hopes to see him there. The two of them part ways. Henry stares as she walks off. His father agrees she's a fine lass and snaps his son out of it. He then asks his son to watch as he tests the sword's sharpness. While testing it, he is visited by Lord Radzig. Radzig tests the sword himself and is impressed that the old ex-swordsmith has not lost his touch. He then offers Henry to test out the sword himself, but it's clear, compared to his father and Radzig, his swordsmanship needs a lot of work still. Radzig tells Henry to ask his father to teach him swordplay, but his father quickly rejects the idea, claiming learning his trade will do him better. Radzig then shows the blade to the man accompanying him, Sir Istvan. The man is impressed by the blade and wonders why such a talented swordsmith is out here in the middle of nowhere and not the capital, claiming he can make a fortune in the city of Prague. Radzig says it's a long and complicated story. Sir Istvan says he would love to hear it sometime, but sadly he is leaving soon. So maybe the next time their paths cross. Radzig escorts his visitor away and tells Henry's father to send the sword his way along with his son once it's finished. Henry then prods at his father, wanting to learn more about his interesting past, but he again refuses to give him any more information, and that maybe sometime in the future he will tell his son the whole story. Henry then asks if he will teach him to wield a sword like Sir Radzig. His father wonders why, and Henry explains that he wants to see the world and meet new people. His father then jokingly asks if he plans to meet these people or beat them, and then explains that he has no need for swordplay. Before Henry can press him further, a messenger quickly rides towards the castle.
A messenger?
He was in a hurry. What's happened? Listen to me, Al. Listen carefully. Take the sword, go into the house, and grab anything else important from the trunk. Go to the castle. Hurry!
What about you?
Your mother is in the village. I'll fetch her and we'll follow right behind.
I'll go with you.
No! You'll do what I say right now. Give the sword to Sir Radzig. If anything happens, he'll take care of you. He owes me.
Move! Come on, we're closing!
Move it, people!
Come on!
We're running
Come
out of
on!
time! Oh, Henry! Thank God! Get inside, quick! We have to shut the
Keep
gates!
running, people! Come on!
Mind this for me.
Are you mad? You can't go back! Ah.
Get through the gates!
Take it!
Run!
Henry is unable to make it into the safety of Radzig's castle, so he is tasked by some of the guards to find a horse and warn the nearby town of Talmberg. Henry successfully escapes Skalitz through a narrow entrance in the back. As he's running down the hill, he notices Teresa being assaulted by multiple enemy soldiers. He successfully catches their attention and steals a horse and heads off to Talmberg, giving Teresa the moment she needed to escape their clutches. All throughout the area, the people of Skalitz are being slaughtered, taking no prisoners. The invading soldiers notice Henry trying to run off and begin to chase him down, shooting an arrow into his leg in the process. He is chased all the way to the gates of Talmberg, where the local guards take notice. They then were able to ward off his pursuers with a hail of arrows, giving him time to escape into the castle walls. Inside, he is greeted and mended by Sir Robard. He helps Henry with the arrow in his leg and tries to make out what is going on. From Henry's description, the army that attacked wore armor and spoke a language he had never heard or seen before. Robard then takes Henry to meet his lord, Sir Divish. Henry recounts the whole tale to Sir Divish, and one of his advisors suggests that the army may be Sigismund's Cumans. They come from the east and are now the core of Sigismund's army, believing after the attack on Kuttenberg, Sigismund targeted Skalitz to steal its silver. Even though there are survivors hiding in the castle, Talmberg does not have the numbers to ward off this attack and save them, and Sir Divish believes that they are most likely next. Divish then asks Robard to take care of Henry, and thanks Henry for warning them. He then asks for all the villagers to be brought into the castle as they prepare for the worst. Robard takes Henry to the kitchen to get him something to eat. Here, he meets Lady Stephanie, Sir Divish's wife. She is kind and appreciative of Henry and his actions, and offers him a room in the lodge in the courtyard. Henry gets some food and heads off to try and get some sleep. It's a rainy night, and the castle is on high alert. During the night, he is visited by Lady Stephanie. She thought Henry could use some wine after everything to help him sleep. She also gives Henry the chance to talk about what happened and unload his feelings. She is frustrated by her inability to help Sir Radzig and his people, but currently no one can stand against such a large army, as the king is in captivity and the nobility are at each other's throats. They both wonder what is going to become of everyone, but all they can do is leave it in God's hands and part ways for the night. Henry then gets more sleep, but this time he has a nightmare of the events in Skalitz. He watches his parents dying again, his mother begging for his help, and his father calling him a coward. He is then awoken by Robard. He informs him that their patrols reported a company heading to Talmberg from Skalitz. They both then head to the battlements to see what is going on. Everyone is surprised to see a caravan of Skalitz refugees led by Sir Radzig. Apparently, they used the cover of the storm to sneak out of the castle before Lord Sigismund could attack in the morning. Sir Divish offers to take them in, but Radzig does not want Talmberg to get caught up in his affairs with Sigismund. He also suggests for him to bend the knee, as the fight would be pointless. Divish takes his counsel and also thanks him for sending a messenger. Radzig is surprised that he survived and asks Henry if he would join him, as they are all taking refuge in the castle of Rattay to the south. Henry says that he would love to follow, but he has to return to Skalitz first to bury his mother and father. Radzig forbids him in doing something so stupid, as the area is crawling with Cumans. Radzig asks Divish to keep Henry within the castle walls as things calm down, and not to let him go on this foolish endeavor. The two lords give each other their farewells, and Radzig heads off to Rattay. The next morning, Talmberg is visited by Sigismund's army.
We're gonna head up to Skalitz.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners.
See how the self-appointed king wins the love and respect of his loyal subjects.
Indeed, Robard. Sigismund of Luxembourg has a rare talent for winning people over to his cause. We may be in for a surprise, though. I don't think he will set his heathen dogs on us today.
Greetings, Lord of Talmberg.
That's the bastard who led the attack at Skalitz and killed my parents.
Don't be an idiot. Do you want to end up like them?
I am Sir Markwart von Aulitz. I come in the name of Sigismund of Luxembourg, King of Hungary and Croatia, who has resolved to strike against those who disrupt concord in the land and to restore order in the name of his brother, King Wenceslaus IV.
Restore order by burning and pillaging the king's estates.
Greetings, Sir Markvart. The efforts of the king's brother to bring order to this chaotic land are undoubtedly noble. It seems to me, though, that he and his army have somewhat strayed. As Burgrave of Prague Castle, I am entirely beholden to the king, and here in Talmberg divine peace reigned until your arrival. To what then do we owe the honor of your visit?
Yesterday, His Majesty took action against the enemy of the kingdom, the Rattay Kobila, who has been using the silver from the Skalitz mine to fund insurrection against the crown. Unfortunately, the insurgent escaped. Would you happen to know, noble sir, where he might be at this time?
As far as I know, the Sir Radzik of which you speak is the king's hetman at Skalitz. I find it hard to imagine that he would rebel against our king. Nevertheless, I can assure you that Sir Radzik is not at Talmberg. He would be a fool indeed to flee from one castle, where he has little chance of defense, to another, where he has even less. Or do you take the view that my humble manner is any obstacle to your army?
Am I to inform the king then that the Rattay Kobila is not at Talmberg and that he has your loyalty?
Sir Radzik Kobila is not here, and I have no intentions of getting embroiled in affairs from which I have nothing to gain.
Very well, sir. As you wish. I will relay your words to the king in the hope he will be as well disposed as you seem to be.
Those who have clean consciences and goodwill may find themselves well disposed even at moments like this, when there's little cause for joy. Farewell, sir.
Auf Wiedersehen.
My lord, you have my utmost admiration.
Get on with you, Robard.
Talmberg is spared from being attacked thanks to Sir Divish's way with words. Afterwards, Henry has some time to ask Robard about Sigismund and what he's after. At this time, certain lords have resolved to take things into their own hands and eliminate anyone who doesn't share their views. Sir Radzig happened to be one of those people, also while sitting on a pile of silver with his mines, believing that the silver would be used to help Wenceslas's allies. Henry asks what Sigismund is after, and Robard informs him what he's heard from multiple sources. Robard describes it as games of the high aristocracy. In Prague, a cabal of nobles rebelled against King Wenceslas. Alongside the nobles, Sigismund and Wenceslas's cousin, Jobst, helped abduct the king, leading to the eventual attack on Kuttenberg and eventually Skalitz to suppress the king's allies. Next, Henry finds a way to sneak out of Talmberg Castle and heads to Skalitz to bury his parents. He arrives at the village of Ravna, where he finds mountains of villagers' dismembered corpses piled up and burned. He takes in the horrors, barely being able to stop himself from vomiting. He then looks at Skalitz Castle in the distance and steels his resolve to continue forward. The area has been abandoned by Sigismund's army, but in their place, scavengers and bandits have come up to scrape whatever little loot is left. Henry explores the charred remains of his home and finds his parents' corpses still intact. Henry then searches for a spade to bury his parents. While searching, he bumps into a survivor named Zbyszek, fighting with a dog, protecting the corpse of his master. Zbyszek's tone is combative and non-empathetic. Henry tries to ask about Teresa and other information, but he's little help. Henry then asks if he can borrow the spade he has in his possession to bury his parents. Zbyszek asks for Lord Radzig's sword as a trade. Henry disagrees and the two get into a fight. Zbyszek then runs off into the night like a coward. Henry then continues the process of burying his parents.
So, let's get to it. Damn it all. How am I going to do this?
Do you need some help? Is that him?
Yes. Can't you see the sword? Who are you? What do you want? Zbyszek?
Who do you think we are? Franciscan brothers? We're here to rob you of everything you've got. Especially that fine blade that's of no use to a peasant like you anyway.
Banish the thought. It is my father's sword.
You mean him? I don't think he's going to be needing it. Listen here, boy. You hand over that sword, I might just let you go. If not, you're in for a family reunion you really don't want.
Leave me alone.
Kill him, Runt! Aye, cut the bastard down.
As you like. Could have just cost you a few teeth.
Ah!
I told you how it would end. You should have listened to me. This is nice work. The chief is going to like it. It's new, isn't it? You helped make it. No doubt you did. Such miserable luck. To die by the sword you helped forge.
Hey, go fuckers! The games are over.
Henry awakens to the sight of Teresa overlooking him. She was in Skalitz after the raid and noticed Zbyszek and his new friends. Teresa feared she may have been too late, but noticed the soldiers from Talmberg approaching. Using her quick thinking, she distracted the bandits by revealing herself, buying a few precious moments for Sir Robard and his men to come charging through Skalitz. From what Henry gathers from Teresa, Sir Divish sent Robard and his men after him once they noticed he was missing. Teresa lost everything in the Skalitz raid. She was practically waiting to die until she noticed Henry needed help. Once Henry was saved, Teresa mended and looked after him. She was then escorted halfway to Rattay by Robard. They're both staying at Teresa's uncle's house at Rattay Mill, just outside of the city. She convinced her uncle to take Henry in as well. She is glad he's doing better, as her uncle is beginning to grow impatient, as Henry's been in bed for nearly 2 weeks recovering, and all medical needs and food paid for by her uncle. Henry is thankful to them both and does whatever he can to pay them back throughout the game in side quests. But his first goal after waking up is to speak to Sir Radzig and inform him that his sword was stolen by the Skalitz bandits. Henry finds him in the Rattay Palace feasting alongside Sir Hanush and Sir Hans Capon. They discuss current matters in the land. Sir Hanush is currently ruling Rattay for his ward, Sir Hans Capon, until he comes of age. After Skalitz, Rattay took in the refugees and are lending one of the 2 castles to Sir Radzig and his men. Tensions are high, and crime and poverty are on the rise due to the influx of people. Hanush plainly says that the people will have to deal with it until the situation is resolved. The priest wonders what this war is even about. Radzig understands the confusion and explains that he believes Sigismund's original plan was to persuade Wenceslas into accepting the imperial crown and leave the rule of Bohemia to him. Hanush believes Wenceslas brought all this chaos upon himself. Being Wenceslas' personal friend, Radzig understands his perspective, but he doesn't believe the lords that sided with Sigismund realize what Hungarian rule really looks like. Sir Capon wonders why Sigismund had to use human mercenaries rather than his own army. Hanush explains that wars are costly, and this war has gone on for over a year now. Sigismund is out of coin for knights, so he recruited the Cumans, believing the less he pays them, the more the Cumans make up for it with plunder. When Henry arrives, he is immediately scolded by Radzig and the others for being so reckless. Henry informs Radzig that his sword was stolen. He is confused for a second, but Henry elaborates on which sword. Radzig says he's already lost Skalitz and half of his subjects. Why would he miss one sword? Henry wishes to retrieve it and bring it to Sir Radzig, as it was his father's final crafted sword, and he promised he would deliver it to him. Radzig understands how he feels, but Henry has no training at arms or a horse, and feels it's unlikely he will be able to complete such a feat in his current state. Henry asks him to become his squire so he can learn these things. Sir Capon objects, listing off all the troubles Henry's actions have caused. Fled the enemy, disobeyed orders, duped Sir Divish, lost the sword, and put Sir Robard in danger. Radzig agrees with Capon on all fronts except for fleeing the enemy, as he believes anyone would have in that situation. He agrees Henry has earned some punishment, but he believes he's already lost everything. Radzig agrees to make Henry his squire, as a kindness to his father. He then assigns him to join the local guard to gather experience. Sir Hanush also believes seeing a familiar face among the guard might lighten things up for the Skalitz refugees. Hanush asks that Captain Bernard personally see to Henry's training. In training, Bernard teaches Henry some basic sword fighting and archery. Sir Capon wonders why Bernard is even wasting his time on Henry, as he believes Henry is a lowly peasant and nothing will come of him. The two begin to feud, but settle things with an archery and swordsmanship competition. After a day on patrol, Henry is assigned to close up the tavern for the night. When he arrives, he finds Sir Capon laughing drunkenly with 2 other men. He informs him curfew has been rung and the alehouse must close for the night. Sir Capon does not take it well, believing he's above the law, since he is the rightful lord of Rattay. But Henry makes it painfully clear to him that Sir Hanush is in charge until he's grown up, which he comments clearly hasn't happened yet. This causes the 2 young men to break out into a fist fight.
Crucifix! What in the name of Christ is happening here? Hell? Answer me, damn you!
This peasant insulted me. I had to teach him a lesson.
By rolling around in the mud like a hog? That's a fine example of noble conduct.
Sir Hanush, the bailiff ordered me
Silence! You shut your mouth and thank your lucky stars that you are Radzig's ward. Have you gone out of your mind? Raising your hand to a nobleman? And you, Hans, how many times have I told you that with your subjects might be good for their morale, but it's bad for your honor? You spend all your days drinking and chasing wenches. which wouldn't matter if you paid any attention at all to your duties. And now we see what that leads to. Tomorrow, you will go with me to a hearing. Some landowners have asked me to settle a dispute. It'll be an excellent lesson for you.
I had planned to go hunting, but if you think listening to the pointless gripes of a bunch of old fools will benefit me, so be it.
Oh, hunting? Well then, Your Grace, I'll tell you what. You can go hunting.
Really?
Oh, naturally. Who am I to deprive the young Lord Capon of his sport? And you can take Henry here as your page.
Him? Absolutely not.
You'll do as I've commanded. It's time you learned how to lead people, and not just in drinking and brawling. Now get out of my sight.
Sir, I have responsibilities as the bailiff.
Not anymore. Your responsibilities now are the Lord Capon. It's time you learned how to behave in the presence of nobility.
The next day, Henry follows Sir Capon hunting as his personal bodyguard. On the way, he apologizes for the way he acted at the alehouse. Henry admits he was being disrespectful to him because of how he talked to him in the training yard. Capon says that he was just teasing him, but that he was also a bit jealous, as Henry was rewarded and promoted for being reckless, while anytime he does anything similar, even for his own honor, Sir Hanush always punishes him. Henry apologizes and understands Capon a bit more. The young lord says it's all water under the bridge, and that the two of them should enjoy the hunt. The two make camp for the day and plan to head out hunting in the morning. While there, Henry can choose to tell Capon more about Skalitz. He also learns a bit more about Capon's specific situation. Before his father died, he appointed a council of nobles to decide whether Capon has come to age and fit to rule. Meanwhile, Sir Hanush runs and watches over things. Even though Capon is of age, the nobles can't be bothered to travel across the country to assess his claim. Under normal circumstances, the king would decide on his adulthood, but he is currently gone due to Sigismund's meddling. The next morning, the two head out hunting. Eventually, they come upon a boar. Capon tries to take it down with a single arrow, but to his dismay, the boar just gets back up and runs away. He runs after it on his horse, and Henry chases after Capon in the thick woods on foot. There's no sign of the boar, but Henry does come upon a small human camp, and there, tied up on a post, is Lord Capon, badly beaten and wounded. Henry takes it upon himself to dispatch the two humans and save Capon from their clutches. He then helps the wounded lord walk all the way back to Rattay on foot. Capon is incredibly thankful to Henry and seems humbled a bit by the whole ordeal. Once in the castle and Capon is being tended to, Henry is called into a meeting between Sir Hanush and Radzig. Hanush is surprised the humans were seen so close to the castle and plans to send out more patrols. Radzig says it won't help as there are too many forests and land to cover. Once Henry arrives, Hanush thanks him for saving Sir Capon. After seeing how far Henry has come, his loyalty to his liege, and courage, Sir Radzig takes him into his personal service. The three toast to Henry's new promotion and Sir Capon's recovery. While celebrating, Captain Bernard comes in breathless and in a hurry. He says he received news that brigands raided the horse farm of Neuhof. Many are dead and maimed. Hanush is furious and asks who did such a thing. Bernard is working with little information, but the stable boy messenger only gave a vague description of a large man in black armor. This tips off Henry, believing that this may be the same man who stole Lord Radzig's sword. Hanush instructs Bernard to find those responsible and take as many men as he needs. Henry offers himself to help, explaining that this may be the same man he is looking for. The lords agree to send Henry along as well, rewarding him with a horse for saving Sir Capon. In Neuhof, Henry and Bernard go over the crime scene. It seems as though the bandits did not steal anything and focused on causing as much damage as possible, killing random civilians and horses. Asking around, Henry confirms that the man in black armor was indeed there. The bandits attacked just before dawn and set the stables ablaze. Focusing on killing the animals, the stable owner called out for help and the villagers came out to fight back. It seems as though the bandits had some sort of disagreement, as some quarreling between each other could be heard. Some ran for the hills to the north, and the rest kept on raiding the stables. Henry finds two bandits in the forest to the north, one of them wounded. After dispatching them, he finds a bloody hoof pick on their person. After some investigating, it's revealed it belongs to one of the villagers, Ginger. But by the time you head back to the village, Ginger is long gone. After more investigating, Henry finds Ginger being hidden by some nearby charcoal farmers he's friends with. Ginger explains that while relieving himself in the middle of the night, he saw the bandits coming to attack. Afraid of being killed, Ginger began to sneak away after they passed, believing that they would just steal some horses and that would be the end of it. But then the senseless killing began. He noticed some of the bandits started fighting amongst themselves and ran back towards him. That is when one of them bumped into Ginger and took his hoof pick, telling him to lay low if he wanted to live. Ginger recognized this man from playing dice in the tavern in Uzitz. Recognizing his limp leg, Henry summarizes, afterwards, the two bandit factions had a skirmish in the woods, leading to one of them being stabbed with the hoof pick. Henry informs Lord Radzig what he has found out so far, then heads to Uzitz to find his suspect. But he is too late, as the bandit known as Limpy Lubosh was murdered and gutted in his own home for all to see, with the word traitor written over his head. Most likely the bandits came out to silence him after their falling out in Neuhof. After more investigating, Henry comes to find that Lubosh visited the local priest before he was killed. Father Godwin admits Lubosh visited him before he died. He also admits knowing what Lubosh was doing on the night Neuhof was raided, as he came to confession, but is unable to help with the investigation due to his vows as a priest. Father Godwin genuinely wants to help Henry, but claims he's unable to break his vows. He invites Henry to the tavern at night to talk over wine and see if the two of them can come up with a workaround. But instead, the two of them spend the night recklessly drinking past curfew.
Na kraj padł dziesięć smutek, drobnielo i rano utek, niech ich małżeński majstrak, do wczera żylne staje prak. Už sejmo i svatý muži, nechtěl bych bejbě i kůži, nám je to jedno a tak si dáme jedno a požerem si huby jako poslední den. Půjde se vápy, panorama stávy, a pak vypal sudy a posaď se mi sem, tak posaď se sem a vypal je ven. Ukaž kozy jako vozy, zejtra jen tu soudnej den, tak nalej mi hned, až točí se svět. Ty dneska vůbec nikdo neví, zase zítra Ježíši a není to naposled.
Well, I have to say that was a fine evening.
The next morning, after being woken up by Godwin's mistress, Godwin realizes he is about to miss preaching for Mass, but he is still too drunk and hungover to do it. So in order to get Henry's help, he promises to reveal who Lubosh confessed he was working with, if he gives the sermon in his place.
The lad spoke well, considering what a soak he is.
He's right, that was.
The young man shouldn't drink so much, but the Lord's given him a
I'm
silver
glad he
tongue.
came here. I don't suppose I'll ever get to Prague, and he told it nicely.
Well, well, my boy, you have talent, and I can't deny it. And you pulled a thorn from my side. I almost didn't make it.
Yeah, I noticed. I wasn't the only one.
Oh, what's to be done? I'll make it up somehow.
So, about our bargain.
Although it's a sin.
So gluttony and fornication.
God does forgive a penitent.
So, what did Limpy Lubosh tell you? Was he at Neuhof that day? Who was with him? And where are they now?
Now slow down. I'm sorry, but he didn't tell me that much.
Don't let me down after all I've been through. For you...
Well, now Lubosh came to me shortly after it happened. His conscience was gnawing at him. And I must say, in the end, he turned out to be a better man than he looked. He said they'd been hired through some crony of theirs. And at first they were just to steal some horses. But then it all turned sour and people started getting killed. And neither he nor his cronies wanted anything to do with that. So they fell out from the gang and fled.
Fell out?
Yeah, there was a body found in the woods by Neuhoff.
That would explain something. Lubos kept jabbering that he wasn't a murderer, that he didn't want to do it.
So I know that Lubos killed the murderer and he's dead too. The trouble is, I need to find the ones who are still alive. I need names and places. Did he mention any of the others?
Only nicknames. Talked about some fella called Riki from Ledechko, Pius, Timmy.
Pius. That lot are about as pious as I am ordained.
Nonsense. You would make an excellent priest. And anyhow, with your skills, you ought to be able to sniff out this Riki from Ledechko, right?
Well, we'll have to now. There's not much else to go on. Let's hope he's not hanging from the wall too.
Indeed. And I'd hate to be excommunicated for nothing. Anyhow, good luck. You watch out for yourself. These people clearly mean business. And I'd like to raise a tankard with you again sometime.
Yeah, I'll try. Although I'm not sure I'd survive another night of your debauchery.
And if anyone should ask, you heard nothing from me. I'll deny everything.
I don't doubt it.
Using the information provided by Godwin, Henry heads out to find the other members of the gang. After investigating, Riki is found in his secret poaching hideout in the woods, stabbed and bleeding out. He learns the leader's name is Runt, and his men stabbed Riki and left him to die, but Henry is able to extract a few more pieces of information before he passes, which leads him to the next member, Timmy, who knows the location of the bandit camp, as he went there personally. At Timmy's last known location, he runs into a group of Runt's men while investigating. After handling them, Henry finds Timmy's real location through his sister and gets instructions on how to find the bandit camp. Henry finds the abandoned city of Pribyslavitz to the north of Talmberg, now taken over by Runt's bandit horde. As he spies on them, he notices Cumans have taken up residence as well. After sabotaging supplies, looking at defenses and number of men, Henry takes all this information he's gathered back to Lord Radzig. Radzig is surprised Cumans have joined forces with the bandits, wondering what Sigismund's motive was. He then asks Henry to call upon Sir Divish and Sir Hanish to bring as many men as they can. Then, the battle for Pribyslavitz begins.
Stand your ground, you dogs! Drive them back!
I will cleave you in two, you bastard.
You tried before, and yet here I am.
What? Who the hell are you?
You don't remember me? I remember you, though. Well, where's my fucking sword?
What the fuck are you on about? What's... Hang on. You're the... Fuck me. I thought we left you to the crows. Tough little fucker, eh?
What did you do with my sword?
Judging by our last encounter, I'd say you made a big mistake coming here.
Where's my fucking sword?
But then again, maybe you've had some practice. I hope so. Because last time was too easy. Not bad for a peasant brat.
It's not over yet, you scum. Now where's my sword? What have you done with it? Talk, you bastard!
see you in hell.
Tell me, did you hear me? Tell me what you've done with it!
I'd say you're flogging a dead horse there.
You took him down. On your own. Well done. Nice work. You surprised me. He was a mountain of a man.
He was the one who attacked Neuhoff. And stole your sword, sir.
The thought did cross my mind. What did he tell you? We'd taken him alive, the executioner might have gotten more out of him. Oh well, these things happen in the heat of battle. Anyway, we found a trunk full of coin down below. Someone was paying this gang very well. There were some of Sigismund's barbarians among them. I don't think we've seen the last of this. Whoever engineered it was highly placed. They won't give up after one defeat. This louse was just a pawn.
I'm afraid you're right, sir. Well, lad, you live to fight another day, eh? That's the fear leaving you, lad. Let it go. Now, put it all behind you. A decent Christian shouldn't dwell on such horrors.
I beg to differ, sir. I never want to forget this. The time has come for those whoresons to pay for what they did to us.
You're right, my boy. But first, we all need some rest. We'll meet later in the upper castle in Rattay and then decide what to do next. But come what may, you did a good job today.
I will make you pay for this. It's time for the next part of our plan. Give the word.
Yes, sir.
A few days pass and we cut to a meeting between Bernard, Hanush, and Radzig. It seems as though hostilities have not ended since the Battle of Pribyslavitz. Bandits continue to raid and attack small hamlets. The biggest target was Merhoyed. Merhoyed was attacked after the Battle of Pribyslavitz. Bernard believes this was to send a message that the enemy force was still strong. But thankfully the villagers were able to fend off the bandits and were even able to take one captive. During the report, Master Tobias walks in with a small chest of Groshen coins. Hanush excitedly rubs his hands together and asks how much did they find in Pribyslavitz. But Tobias has bad news for the Lord, as the currency found were forgeries, and were made out of mostly copper, not silver. Hanush stands up in disbelief and anger. Radzig asks if it would be difficult to produce such forgeries. Tobias says it would be highly demanding, requiring a well-hidden foundry, several craftsmen, and a source of material. From the looks of the currency, they seem freshly minted, and with the nearby silver mines, he believes it's highly plausible, meaning whoever is hiring these bandits and attacking the area has almost limitless resources of coin using these forgeries. After everyone's report, it is clear what steps need to be taken next. Interrogate the bandit, find out the enemy force's numbers, and cut off their supply of money, or else another encampment will surely appear. After Pribyslavitz, Henry's proven himself as a worthy investigator. Lord Radzig assigns him these tasks and he heads to Merhoyed as soon as possible. When he arrives, he questions the locals to find out what happened that day. From what he gathers, a villager called Young Straw saw the bandits coming over the hill. The boy was able to yell and warn the villagers, and Melikar, the village leader, gathered everyone who could fight and ambushed the bandits, taking one prisoner. Sadly, Young Straw was severely wounded in the battle and didn't make it to the morning. A few days later, something the villagers called the plague appeared. Livestock began to grow ill and die first, but then it began to affect the villagers, who are now bedridden, and it seems to get worse as time goes on. This plague is also affecting the captured prisoner, preventing Henry from interrogating him. Henry also meets up with his old friend Matthias, who was living in the area after Skalitz. He is wounded, but Henry learns from him that a Skalitz villager named Johanka works in the village monastery infirmary just north of Sasau. She may know someone to turn to help out curing the village. At the monastery, Johanka points him to brother Nicodemus. After doing some research and describing the people's symptoms, Henry comes to the conclusion that the sickness is water poisoning. It seems as though the bandits' goal was never to raise the village, but to break through and poison their water supply. After creating the needed remedy, Henry heads back to Merhoyed and tends to the villagers, along with the help from brother Nicodemus and Johanka. After a few days, the people begin to recover alongside the captured bandit. The bandit puts up no resistance in questioning and answers all of Henry's questions to the best of his ability. Henry learns that Runt and his men follow someone called the Chief. He is the one who paid Runt and had the currency minted. The bandit is sure the man is nobility because of his mannerisms and speech. After Pribyslavitz, the chief gave the orders to attack Merhoyed. Henry is surprised the bandit knew the coins were counterfeit, but the bandit explains that he was in charge of delivering the coin. He doesn't know where it's being crafted. He only gives Henry the location where the two would meet and make the exchange. Next, Henry heads to the meeting location to find the merchant trading the counterfeit coin. When he arrives, he finds remnants of an attacked trading caravan. While investigating the crime scene, he follows a trail of blood to a nearby charcoal burner camp. At the camp, he finds a wounded man hidden away. He was one of the guards escorting the traders' caravan. They were attacked by a lone knight who had been following them for some time. During their conversation, a commotion can be heard outside. The knight has returned and is asking the charcoal burners where they stashed the coin. It seems as though the charcoal burners looted the caravan after the attack, but had no idea the sacks were full of coin. Henry tries to stop the knight, but he mounts up and begins to try and ride away. If Henry is able to catch him, it leads to a fight between the two. The knight gets on his knees and he surrenders. He says his name is Ulrich, and he's willing to answer Henry's questions as long as he gives him some assurances. After the two talk to each other more, they both realize they are both investigating the counterfeit coin, albeit for different masters. Ulrich reveals that the counterfeit coin began to show up in the city of trade, Passau, so the alderman is having it investigated. Ulrich's masters allied with this alderman, so he was asked to deal with this matter. Ulrich followed the merchant from Passau and ambushed them. But the merchant cut his horses loose and ran off, falling off of his horse and breaking his neck during the chase. By the time Ulrich returned, the charcoal burners had looted the caravan. He has a written confession from the investigation in Passau, how the counterfeit coins are made, and asks Henry to take it to Master Fafar to analyze it. Maybe with his help, they can figure out where these coins are being created. With Fafar's help, he notices a key ingredient, quicksilver. This ingredient would be very rare and hard to get hold of. He suggests Henry to check the forges of Sasau and see if anyone's working with this material. Talking to Ulrich, he finds out the monastery painter has been complaining at the lack of quicksilver, as the material is needed to mix red paint, which leads Henry to the overseer's assistant. After interrogating him, it's revealed that a knight named Sir Yezek and his lackey named Rapoda have been threatening him to smuggle the quicksilver from the monastery. From there, Henry takes the information of Master Fafar, who then suggests to check in on the monastery engraver, as the counterfeiters would need a punch die, which only his workshop could produce. When Henry asks questions, it's revealed that the engraver's apprentice has been acting strangely, and commented that he felt like he was being followed. Henry then checks in on this apprentice who stayed home sick for the day. After questioning him, it's revealed the bandits kidnapped his girlfriend and are holding her hostage. Also that Rapoda is always nearby, keeping an eye on him from a distance. After confronting Rapoda, Henry finds out where the counterfeit shop is being hidden, at the Skalitz mines. Ulrich tries to murder everyone at the scene of the crime, but Henry's able to stop him and talk him into leaving things as is. After Ulrich is dealt with, Henry takes in Sir Yezek into custody. The next day, Sir Yezek asks for Henry to question him, as he's trying to bargain information for a more lenient sentence. Sir Yezek is an ex-noble driven into crime after his castle was taken from him. He informs Henry that there's a large-scale recruitment happening in Sasau for armed men. They will pretty much take in anyone. While in hard times, Yezek was recruited by these men, but as soon as they realized he was an educated nobleman, they put him in charge of the counterfeiting operation. He said the one who put him in charge is named Eric, but he is surely only second in command, but Eric never talked about his lord by name. Henry then updates Lord Radzig that another army is being amassed and heads back to Sasau to investigate. Eventually, Henry learns how to signal the recruiters by lighting candles at the church and praying. The bandit recruiters are skeptical and are not hiring en masse anymore, so they give Henry a job to assassinate a traitor that is hiding in the monastery in Sasau and collect his dice. The traitor's name is Pius, and he is posing as a novice monk inside the monastery. Monastery novices are devoted and are unable to leave the grounds. The only way to get to Pius is to either join in the order or sneak in and kill him. However, Henry decides to handle the matter. Once he's proven his loyalty, he is shown the location of the new bandit camp. But after introducing himself to Eric, Henry bumps into a familiar face.
Sir, may I...
What is it?
I went to the fight master as you ordered, and I...
What's the matter? Lost your tongue?
I think I know what's troubling the young master. He's surprised to see me here. And the feeling's mutual. When did you start recruiting Radzig's people, Eric?
Radzig?
Indeed. This boy is very dear to him. And I expect he's looking for this? Am I right, young man?
You bastard.
He's coming round.
I apologize for the discomfort, but it's for your own safety. And ours, of course. You can count yourself lucky, lad. I'm gonna keep you alive. I'm sure your father will pay a nice fat ransom for you.
My father's dead. That lackey of yours wouldn't even let me bury him.
He doesn't know, Eric. Nobody told him. They told me, a foreigner, but not him. How very inconsiderate. I'm sure you'd rather hear it under different circumstances and from someone else, boy. But beggars can't be choosers. Your father, your real father, is alive. You even know him. It's your liege lord, Radzig Kobyla. Although, how much can he really care about you? Here you are, a homeless orphan, and he still hasn't acknowledged you. Your parents are both dead, aren't they? I thought so. And yet, Radzig still hasn't told you the truth. Could it be that he's ashamed of you? I wonder if you'll want to pay that ransom after all. Well, best not think about that. If your father won't pay your ransom, you have no value to me.
My father's dead.
I understand why you feel that way. My own childhood was not dissimilar. How strange that we should have something in common. But I've delayed long enough. Now it's time for you to tell me why you came here.
I was looking for my father's sword, which was stolen by a certain bastard.
And I found it. But I wonder which father you mean. In a way, it belongs to both.
Doesn't matter who it belongs to. I'm gonna kill you with it.
You're hardly in a position to threaten me. But now I think of it, why not? When your father, your real father, pays, I'll give you an opportunity to try.
I think that's very generous of you.
Isn't it? Now, I'm afraid I have more important business to attend to. I'll leave Udo here to keep you company. And let's hope for both our sakes that your father pays up. Farewell.
Rot in hell!
Knock some manners into him, Udo. Come on, Eric, let's go. We've got work to do.
In the middle of the night, Henry's woken up by his bishek. He was put in charge to guard Henry, and is using the opportunity to help him escape. Henry is skeptical and asks why he would do such a thing. Bishek makes it clear he's looking for a reward. He just wants a quiet life, and to do that, he needs money and safety, thinking saving Henry would be his golden ticket out of his bandit life. Bishek unlocks the door and he says he will meet Henry outside the fortress if he's able to escape and guide him back to Rattay. After sneaking through the bandit-infested fortress, Bishek keeps his promise and the two travel to Rattay on foot. When Henry arrives, he reveals he knows the truth of his birth and who is behind the recent attacks. His name is Sir Istvan Toth. He was last seen being hosted by Lord Radzig in Skalitz. Being allied with Sigismund, he seeks to destroy King Wenceslas' allies and take the realm for himself. He's gathered over 100 men at his new camp. Radzig tells Henry he had planned to tell him the truth soon, but there would be time to talk about their relationship later. He asks Henry to head to Talmberg and gather Sir Divish's men as they plan to attack the camp tonight. Lord Radzig and their men assault the bandit base and are successful in taking it, but it is revealed that Eric and Sir Istvan are nowhere in sight. The base was a diversion, as Sir Istvan took all the experienced men to Talmberg, as it was left mostly unguarded. Posing as injured travelers, Istvan and his men take advantage of Lady Stephanie's kindness and trick her into lowering the bridge and opening the gates. Sir Divish and the others ride to Talmberg as quickly as possible, but they're too late, as the castle has already been taken over and Lady Stephanie held hostage. Divish and his men meet Istvan at the bridge to the castle. As Istvan takes joy in holding a knife to Stephanie's neck, he reveals that he's also taken Lord Radzig hostage, capturing him when he charged into the castle to stop reinforcements. Divish tries to bargain with Istvan, but he simply says he wants nothing but to see them all die, signaling at the archers to fire and for the bridge to be raised. The remaining lords regroup and make plans on what to do next. Hanish tells Divish that they will have to lay siege to the castle. Divish is apprehensive and only wishes to do this as a last resort, as he doesn't wish to destroy his own home. Robard makes a plan to sneak into the castle at night and save the hostages, using the western wall, sneaking in with ladders. Henry and Sir Capon join in this endeavor, but when they find the hostages, Radzig and Lady Stephanie are nowhere in sight, most likely being held at a different location. Henry wishes to sneak in further to save his father, but Sir Capon is shot by a guard before they can go further. The two escape the castle along with the hostages, Henry carrying Capon on his back. The next morning, Sir Divish and Robard discuss their options, realizing that it will have to come to a siege after all. But in order to do that, they need a trebuchet built. Divish assigns a project to Master Fafar, but it seems as though it's not in his field of expertise. Robard and Henry notice Fafar seems unsure, so Henry offers his help. Fafar asks Henry to seek out Conrad Kaiser, a scholar who designed siege engines, who used to work for Sigismund. Due to a disagreement between the two, he was banished. He is currently in Sasau, helping finish the monastery. After talking to Conrad, he explains that after his banishment, many of his patrons stopped supporting him, leaving him with few funds to work on his magnum opus, a book on machinery. So he's working at the monastery to fund his projects. He would love to rain boulders on Sigismund's men, but he's currently contractually obligated to help with the monastery. Henry helps nullify this contract through various means, but Conrad afterwards is now terrified that he's going to be assassinated, as an old acquaintance from the time he served Sigismund was seen at the tavern. Conrad seems like he's over-exaggerating, but Henry finds the man attempting to sneak into Conrad's home in the middle of the night. Once the possible assassin is handled, Henry convinces Conrad to head to Talmberg, as he would be safer there surrounded by a whole garrison of men. Once the trebuchet is built and tested, Conrad still needs time to calibrate it before they can truly lay siege. Meanwhile, a lone messenger rides in saying he needs to talk to Sir Divish. It seems as though Sir Divish's old enemy, Sir Havel, is on the way with an army of men to help Sir Istvan take the castle. The lords discuss their options and make a plan to ambush Sir Havel and his men before they can make it near to Talmberg. The counterattack is successful, and they're even able to take Eric, Istvan's right-hand man, as hostage. But they have to quickly return to camp, as Istvan's men left the castle to try and destroy the trebuchet. The trebuchet is saved, but Sir Divish is still hesitant on firing it, fearing for his wife and Lord Radzig's lives. Henry pitches a hostage exchange, saying he noticed that Istvan and Eric seem to be on very intimate terms. He might be as valuable as Lady Stephanie and Radzig are to them. Hanish sets up one last parlay with Istvan, bringing Eric as hostage. It is clear Istvan values Eric greatly, as he grows venomous and angry, threatening Lady Stephanie and Lord Radzig harm if anything were to happen to him. Istvan confirms his hostages are still alive and well, and the two parties separate. At last, the only solution is a siege. As Hanish explains, they do not have the supplies to keep men stationed at Talmberg for weeks on end, especially with bandits and Sigismund's men roaming the countryside. During the planning, Hanish is informed that Margrave Jobst wishes to speak to him. Jobst of Luxembourg is cousin to both Wenceslas and Sigismund, the Margrave of Moravia. Hanish says only a year ago he was on Sigismund's side, betraying Wenceslas and his ally Prokop. But now apparently he's changed sides, appointing himself as the leader of the rebellion against Sigismund to liberate Wenceslas. Hanish wants to wrap things up before Jobst arrives, so their decision to take back Talmberg as soon as possible was made for them. After a few days of bombarding the castle, the battle for Talmberg begins. Once the battle is over, the lords gather outside the tower Istvan has held himself up in, along with the hostages. Hanish wishes to end this conflict and secure Stephanie and Radzig's safety. So he promises Istvan his honor as a lord, that if he sets them free and leaves their lands and is never to return, he will give them safe passage. Istvan is skeptical and releases only Lady Stephanie and keeps Lord Radzig, promising to release him once he reaches the border near Skalitz. Hanish is hesitant, but eventually gives in to his command, as Lord Radzig says he's fine with being held hostage a bit longer, and that he personally believes Istvan would not be fool enough to harm him out of personal interest. Istvan slowly comes down the tower after all of Hanish's men have been called off. He releases Lady Stephanie, then mounts his horse, taunting Henry with his father's sword, saying he's going to keep it as a memento. Henry yells, promising to find him one day and take it back. Istvan laughs and rides off to Skalitz. Henry and Sir Capon both follow at a distance as promised, so they can collect Sir Radzig. When they reach the area, they find Radzig in a field, completely unharmed. Sir Capon leaves Henry to catch up with his father, and takes the rest of his men to chase after Istvan. The two finally get a moment to talk.
It looks like it's all over.
Not by a long shot. It won't be over until we get this mess cleared up.
And catch that bastard. How could we let him go?
Would you rather we killed him? Even if it meant Lady Stephanie and I died too?
No, of course not. But what was to stop us from killing him after the exchange?
Honor?
Honor?
If the word of honor of a nobleman could not be trusted, then he would never have agreed to the exchange.
And where's the honor in abandoning your son?
You know how it is. We were young. It happened. And I couldn't marry a commoner. Then your father, Martin, came along and took care of both of you.
He knew it.
What? That I was your father? Certainly. He was a great man. He took you as his own. And always kept an eye on you. Of that you can be sure.
I know so little about his past.
He told you nothing? Oddly enough, even though you don't have his blood, you're very like him. When he was around your age, he became bored of his trade and set out to see the world. He lived through many adventures, even fought in a war.
In a war?
Yes, in Poland, I believe. And I don't think he cared much for it.
That's why he wanted me to stay at home.
He spent some time in Prague, then settled in Kuttenberg. But it seems he quarreled with someone there and finally ended up here. You know the rest.
I loved him, but even so, I somehow always had a feeling I didn't quite fit in.
It was in your blood, I suppose.
I lost the one thing I had left from him. Your sword.
Ah. The sword. It's not my sword. It's yours. For a moment there, it was so near, yet so far. Oh, well, it can't be helped.
It was almost within my grasp, but just then I had something else on my mind.
Well, I think we may yet have a chance to get it back. This business with Toth is not yet over, unfortunately.
That's a chance I'd welcome. Not just to get the sword, but that bastard Istvan too. And then I'll find that German whoreson who torched Skalitz, and I'll slay him with it. I'll never forget his face. Or his name. Marquard von Aulitz.
Those are noble intentions, son. But don't forget there are other things in this world that are worth living for.
Like what?
Look around you. Blue skies overhead, green grass underfoot, beautiful girls. Good wine, a few good friends, and a fine steed under your backside. Those are things worth living for. Now, I can't deny that swine who killed your mother must pay for what he did. But it's better not to dwell too much on that at the cost of those other things. On the subject of steeds, I think we'll have to ride like the Knights Templar.
How's that?
2 up. One day I'll tell you how they got their seal. You can take the front. It's like I always imagined it would be, teaching my boy to ride. Although it would be better if you were a little smaller. My word, it's all go today, isn't it? I wonder who this is.
I think I know. It's Margrave Jobst.
The king's cousin? I wonder what he wants. I guess we'll find out soon enough.
The next morning, Henry and Lord Capon join in the meeting between Jobst and the rest of the lords. Jobst is attempting to gather allies to restore Wenceslas back to power, as even though for all his faults, they have no better alternative. The lords are hesitant, as it seems Jobst is easily changing his allegiance wherever the wind blows. Jobst informs everyone that things have gotten out of control, and now he believes even Lord Sigismund's own allies in Bohemia are realizing he was not the right choice. There also has been a revolt against Sigismund in Hungary, partly due to Jobst's efforts. Now his only choice is to keep chasing the Bohemian crown or hold on to the Hungarian one, believing it will be impossible to have both. Jobst believes that if all of Bohemia unite, Sigismund's allies, known as the League of Lords, will turn on him. Radzig asks Jobst to confirm the League of Lords' true position, but he has little information. That's when Sir Capon offers to visit a nearby lord, Sir Bergov, as an envoy, to find out their intentions. Everyone thinks it's a little risky, but overall it's a good idea. Hanish doubts Bergov will harm an envoy, and then they can find out what he has to say about recent developments, thus giving them information on what to do next. Sir Capon asks Henry to join him, and Lord Radzig agrees, as Henry has shown an astounding ability as an investigator. A letter is written by Jobst and Hanish for Sir Bergov. They make it clear to head that way and hand him the letter and listen to his answer, avoiding any entanglements or provoking the Lord. Then, Sir Capon and Henry head out on their next adventure.
Doing well, son.
Father.
Come now. You know who sired you.
That doesn't matter now. I miss you, Amar. I miss you very much.
You'll be fine. We're proud of you.
For what? I let you down. I lost the sword. I let that bastard get away.
Don't be so hard on yourself. There was nothing you could have done to save us. And someone has to live and carry the torch. As for the sword, it's just a thing.
You didn't want me fighting. Now look at me.
Standing up to evil isn't the same as sowing its seeds. You did what was right. I have to leave you now.
Oh, please.
You know I can't stay.
Will I ever see you again?
God knows. Make her proud.
Don't go.